Gloves in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance case, unraveling the mystery and what it means for the ongoing investigation. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of TV host Savannah Guthrie, has gripped the nation and ignited a complex investigation that has persisted for more than a month. Among the many physical clues and reported leads that law enforcement has pursued, one of the most discussed and misunderstood pieces of evidence has been a series of gloves discovered near her Tucson, Arizona home. What began as widespread speculation about their potential connection to her disappearance has since evolved into a clearer, though still unresolved, picture. The gloves became a focal point in the search not only because they were found close to the area where Nancy vanished, but also because surveillance footage from her porch camera showed a masked figure wearing similar gloves on the morning she disappeared. Initial hopes that the gloves might hold DNA ties to a suspect or the victim's last known movements stirred public interest in the case and sparked debate over what the findings might mean. In recent developments, however, law enforcement has clarified much of the confusion around the gloves and firmly established that some of them are unrelated to the case, while others, though potentially significant, have yet to yield definitive leads. To understand the role of the gloves in the investigation and why they attracted such intense focus, it helps to take a broader look at the case itself, how the evidence emerged, and what authorities have publicly confirmed. When Nancy Guthrie went missing. Nancy Guthrie was last seen at her residence in the Catalina foothills area of Tucson, Arizona. She was reported missing after failing to show up for a scheduled engagement, prompting immediate concern from family members and authorities. Given her age and reported health concerns, including high blood pressure and a reliance on daily medication and a pacemaker, law enforcement quickly determined that she likely did not leave voluntarily. Security footage from her front porch's doorbell camera captured a masked, armed figure tampering with the camera early in the morning of her disappearance. The individual appeared to wear a ski mask, long pants, a jacket, a backpack, and black gloves, details that naturally drew intense attention from investigators and the public alike. This footage, the apparent discontinuation of her pacemaker app, and blood found near her porch combined to create a scenario many authorities and family members believe indicates foul play, possibly a kidnapping. Familial involvement was quickly ruled out, and the FBI joined local law enforcement in the search and investigation. How the gloves became part of the puzzle. In the weeks that followed Nancy's disappearance, law enforcement found multiple pairs of gloves scattered across various areas near her home. It's important to note that many of the gloves were merely left behind by search teams, volunteers, and law enforcement personnel as they combed the scene, a fact that added to confusion about their significance. Among the collection of gloves, one particular pair stood out. These gloves were recovered about 2 miles from Nancy's residence, and they bore a resemblance to those worn by the masked person in the doorbell camera footage. Investigators collected this specific pair for DNA testing, hopeful it might yield a genetic profile that could be matched against national databases. DNA testing encoded results. After the potentially significant gloves were sent to a laboratory for DNA analysis, preliminary results revealed DNA was present on the gloves, and authorities entered the profile into the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, the federal database used to match DNA from crime scenes with records of individuals who have provided DNA profiles due to arrests or convictions. Despite initial hopes, the DNA entered into CODIS did not produce any matches. In other words, no known profile in the database matched the DNA recovered from the gloves. Investigators noted that this outcome isn't uncommon. Many criminal cases involve DNA from people who have never been arrested or included in the database, meaning their genetic information wouldn't be present in CODIS even if they were responsible. Authorities also clarified that the DNA recovered from inside the Guthrie home, separate from the glove DNA, likewise has not yielded a match in CODIS. Notably, the DNA from inside the home and the DNA recovered from the glove have not been publicly confirmed as being from the same individual. As a result, the forensic utility of the glove evidence remains uncertain. While the glove may visually resemble the type worn by the masked figure on the porch camera footage, neither DNA profile has yet led to a known suspect or conclusive identification. Clarifying rumors and misconceptions. One of the most widely circulated misconceptions was that some of the gloves found near the Guthrie residence belonged to police officers or were discarded by law enforcement during the investigation. Officials, however, have directly addressed this, stating that at least one pair of gloves suspected of being linked to the case was traced back to a restaurant worker across the street, meaning it had no connection to the disappearance. Sheriff Chris Nanos emphasized that authorities had always suspected early on that the gloves might not be related, and subsequent testing confirmed that they were not part of the investigation. Furthermore, multiple pairs of gloves found around the area, including those recovered by search teams, are not necessarily associated with the suspect or the missing person case at all. With dozens of volunteers, law enforcement personnel and media personnel in the area searching for evidence, the presence of discarded gloves is not unusual. The broader investigation. While the glove DNA has yet to generate a breakthrough, law enforcement continues to pursue other avenues of investigation with multiple layers of evidence and analysis. Surveillance technology, including video footage and signals from Guthrie's pacemaker, have been part of the investigative toolkit. The doorbell camera footage showing the masked individual remains one of the most critical pieces of evidence and continues to be studied for new insights. Authorities have also executed search warrants at various properties near Guthrie's home in an effort to find additional physical evidence, vehicles, or other material that could link a suspect to the scene. These searches have at times involved SWAT teams and detailed forensic sweeps, though no arrests have been made as of yet. The FBI has described the suspect seen in the doorbell footage as a medium-build person approximately 5 feet, 9 inches to 5 feet, 10 inches tall, wearing gloves, a mask and carrying a backpack. The investigation has urged anyone with information, no matter how small, to contact authorities, and a reward has been offered for credible tips. Public and media reactions. The public response to the Guthrie disappearance has been intense. Nancy's daughter, Savannah Guthrie, co-host of NBC's Today Show, has been open about the family's anguish and the lack of concrete answers so far. She has personally encouraged anyone with information to step forward and has shared updates, including a video appeal that emphasized belief in her mother's safe return. Meanwhile, speculative theories have proliferated online, as is common in high-profile cases with limited leads. Some commenters have questioned investigative direction, while others have seized on details like the gloves or backpack seen in surveillance footage to craft narratives about what may have occurred. Law enforcement officials have repeatedly stressed that misinformation or speculation can distract from credible leads and that the priority remains locating Nancy or identifying those responsible for her disappearance. Why the gloves still matter. Despite the current lack of conclusive forensic links, the gloves remain relevant to the investigation for several reasons. First, the surveillance footage placement of gloves on a suspect strongly influenced early investigative direction. While initial DNA results did not match Cody's records, authorities continue to analyze all genetic material collected during the investigation, including mixed DNA samples found on the property. These samples could eventually be compared through expanded databases or genetic genealogy, an investigative process used in some high-profile cases to identify suspects via distant relatives' genetic matches. Second, the gloves provide potential linkage between evidence collected at different locations, from the scene of the disappearance, surrounding search area, and possibly tied clues discovered miles away. Continued forensic advances and further lab analysis might yet uncover leads from any remaining samples that have not been fully processed or interpreted. Ongoing law enforcement efforts and public appeals. Law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department, have repeatedly stated that the investigation is active and evolving. Authorities have processed numerous potential pieces of evidence, conducted multiple searches, and worked with federal partners to pursue leads both physical and digital. The public has been asked to remain vigilant, especially residents in and around the Tucson area, and to report any unusual sightings or information related to Nancy's disappearance. The ongoing engagement of the community and media plays an important role in sustaining attention to a case that otherwise might fade without resolution. Conclusion: a case still open and complex. The investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is far from over, and while some evidence, like the gloves found near her home, has been clarified as unrelated or inconclusive, the broader search continues with persistence. What once captured headlines as a promising lead now serves as a reminder of the challenges inherent in complex criminal investigations that involve incomplete evidence, public speculation, and the limitations of current forensic databases. Law enforcement is continuing its methodical work, combining surveillance analysis, forensic testing, and public engagement in hopes of identifying the truth. Until definitive breakthroughs occur, the memory of Nancy Guthrie and the dedication of those searching for her remain at the forefront of this ongoing and deeply human story.